There's been a couple heroes, you might say, that have fallen a little early. Last segment, in case you missed it, go over to thegreenhousegroupinc.com/Truth Radio. We talked about Prince and David Bowie. Some cautionary tales there between the two. What about MJ?
Michael Jackson. Yeah. So he passed in 2009. And so the thing with him is he actually did have a plan in place. So he had a trust, and
he gets a point for that.
He does. Yeah. So he actually he thought ahead and got that stuff taken care of. And so the interesting thing with his estate is that in the trust, he stated that he wanted, so part of it was going for his mom, in trust for his mom, and then the other part was going to go for his 3 kids in trust for them. But the thing that I thought was really interesting is that because supposedly the net, his estate might be like 600 million, but like net worth, maybe it's like 250 million. And so the thing that I thought was interesting with his estate is that for his kids who are minors, they will receive their assets outright at age 30, 35, and 40, which to me was really strange because as a kid, or even like a 30, 35, 40-year-old, you're in the public eye. People know who you are. They might be coming after your money. You got the predators, maybe who are looking to scam. When they know that these individuals are going to be receiving like a huge lump sum inheritance at the final age is 40, it just didn't make sense to me why he would do that as opposed to doing an asset protection trust for each of his kids, where the kids would still have the benefit and use of the money that was in there, in each of their trusts, but it adds an extra layer of protection against individuals who might be, unsavory sorts who are trying to come and just take money away from them, or potential creditors. So that kind of blew my mind that he didn't do that for his kids. Okay,
so there wasn't something in place that if you kind of like had the reins on, you could easily see this would be a good fit for that fix. Right. So maybe you can just help like the 101 brain over here on this side of the table, like just like quickly define like what function that would have performed.
Right. So you mean an asset protection trust?
Yeah. Just like dumb it down to this side of the table.
So asset protection trust would basically mean that those assets, whatever. So let's say your kid, you want to, upon your death, you want to make sure that your kid receives their inheritance.
And this is important too, because whether it's 250 million or 25,000.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly. And I feel like sometimes it's even more important when maybe the estate's more humble because you've worked very hard for that and that's what you're passing on to your loved ones. Well, and so let's say that your kid is going to maybe upon your death is going to inherit, let's say, 100,000 or 500,000. So one option is just to say, okay, at age, once they're the age of majority or at age 30, they get to receive those assets right away and they can do whatever it is they want. So what that means, though, is if your kid were to marry and maybe they married into the wrong, married the wrong person and subsequently get a divorce, then that divorcing spouse is going to be able to take half of that inheritance. Essentially, that's the risk that you might run into with that, as opposed to if you do what's called an asset protection trust, you're setting it up so that those assets can't be commingled with future spouses and therefore divorcing spouses can't access it. Or if you got into a car accident and you're at fault and now you have a judgment against you, the court's going to demand payment, right, from your assets. But if it's in an asset protection trust, technically you're not the owner, so they won't be able to access those assets. So that's the thing here, which kind of surprised me for Michael Jackson, that he didn't kind of set his kids up, especially since during life he was really protective of his kids, right? He tried to shield them and protect them from the public eye.
Except when he was dangling them off.
Except when he was dangling blanket off of the balcony. Right. Except for that very not so good incident there. Yes. But other than that, he tried to shield them, and he didn't do that. It's at age 40, they're going to get their assets outright. So, that's one thing to keep in mind is, that'll be interesting to see what happens to that. And hopefully they don't spend it, gambling or like drugs.
And that's another thing, because like I'm sure that was, I'm assuming that was why the rollout probably started at 30. Right. So that you could imagine that you'll be a little more mature,
yes,
a little better steward
Right.
of the responsibility of that type of money.
Right.
But still, you know.
But then the other, to play devil's advocate with that is oftentimes celebrity kids or kids who, let's say the silver spoon babies, like sometimes they don't have the same street smarts that other individuals do. And right. So they, have a different outlook on life. And so in my opinion, I think that's even more important to kind of put in provisions in place to make sure that, we want them to be productive. We don't want those trust fund babies. And essentially with this type of gift plan in place, he didn't really think ahead of that, So, I mean, I guess he was hoping that his kids would take care of themselves and know what to do with that. But
anything else to learn about Michael Jackson's estate?
Something that I thought was interesting is his attorneys right now, the attorneys for the estate, they're arguing that at the time of his death, his estate or his image was worth only $2,500. And so the IRS, though, is saying, no, we think it was worth like $300 million. And so there's a battle. Actually, it's going to be a trial next year.
Those numbers seem close.
With the IRS, right? That's, that's like a easy fix right there.
Yeah.
So the IRS is claiming, no, his estate was worth a lot more upon his death, and therefore the estate owes a ton of taxes. Attorneys are claiming, no, because of the child abuse allegations and, his kind of fall from fame, it wasn't really worth that much. But I mean, $2,500, that's interesting.
Yeah, the king of pop is worth a little more than $2,500.
Yeah, I would think so.